Yeah, I think there's an element of curiosity that you have to maintain because that's kind of, for me anyway, that like I wanted to learn more and I didn't stop wanting to learn more. Just because we get licensed and we have a classroom now to do things and doesn't mean that curiosity for, hey, what are other people doing? And like maybe it doesn't change a whole lot of what your program is, but you get to see a broader perspective and that I mean, having to articulate this is what I'm doing and why it is or isn't working is already half of the process that you do in an evaluation, right? Like, tell me what happened. Okay, well, here's what happened. That doesn't need to be with an administrator. That could be on the phone, just like you said, in the car with someone.
Yeah. Welcome to Pass the Baton, empowering students in music education. Here, we amplify the voices of music teachers around the world who are passing the baton and creating environments where the music students are empowered. Together, we can help students transform from passive consumers to vibrant creators. Welcome back to the Pass the Baton podcast. I'm Kathryn Finch.
And I'm Theresa Hoover. We are glad to be with you today. Kathryn, I feel like we've been so lucky this season to find these incredible guests, and you know, to have another team of teachers that we're talking to has been really, really special. I'm so glad that you introduced me to Alexis and Krista.
Yeah, I mean, they were just so great to listen to in the fall at the Wisconsin Music Ed Conference. Like they had just so many concrete, excellent ideas. And the way they spoke with each other and the way they worked together, you could just tell they're good friends, but also just good co-teachers, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And co-teaching, you know, that's something special that we don't all get to experience. But I feel like in addition to talking about the really tangible things that we can do in a music program, just having them talk about, you know, the collaborative opportunities that can be with a co-teacher or can be with someone else in your building or somebody across the school district or across the state, you know, getting some of those ideas to think about and remind us that we shouldn't be trying to do this work in a silo.
Yeah. And I think what always happens with our guests is that like after we've had an interview with them, like just everybody remembers how much fun it is to engage with other people, like-minded people who are thinking the same things and push your thinking. Like it really is. I'll nerd out on it all the time. Like it's just, it's good to do.
Yep, me too. I love it. I think, and it's something special for us to be able to have these opportunities to have these conversations. Before we get to today's interview, if you're ready to make powerful shifts towards student-centered teaching, explore the Pass the Baton Coffee Club. Members get an exclusive deeper dive audio extra and a Reflect and Act PDF download after every episode, plus access to our full resource library.
For more personal support, our premium tier offers direct access to Kathryn and Theresa in a private Voxer group. Visit buymeacoffee.com/passthebaton to learn more and join. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being here. We have the pleasure of getting to meet two people. I get to see you both at Wisconsin Music Ed Conference way back in October, and so it's just a pleasure to have you both here, Alexis Ganos and Krista Witak. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. We're excited.
So before we kind of jump into the content, why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us, you know, a little bit about your background in education, what you're up to these days. Who wants to go first?
Sure, mine's shorter. I'm Krista. I graduated college in 2021 during kind of COVID times. My first year teaching was in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, which is a smaller community, and I picked up a general music and orchestra teaching job, knowing that I could maybe grow the program, but I wasn't really satisfied with that age range and just kind of happened upon this Elmbrook strings position for middle school and said, I'm going to throw my name in the hat and see what happens. And I've been there ever since. So
I got my undergrad degree from Ohio State a long time ago. I guess. So I've been in 3 different districts now, all in Wisconsin. I moved back home to Wisconsin And I have taught strings at every level from kindergarten through high school, and have also run a private studio as well. So I'm in year 17 already. I'm a violist. So we've got our upper strings and our lower strings covered.
Yeah.
And we now currently co-teach together at the middle schools in Elmbrook where we are. So we have 2 different middle schools, and we co-teach, we spend the whole day in one building, then the next day we just alternate days back and forth. So one of us does the large group while the other does supports and rehearsals or small group instruction.
Yeah.
So when you say co-teach, you really mean you're both in the room together, or
we very close. We like to share a desk all day. It's really great.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah. Did you guys kind of come up with that, or was that like set when Krista, when you came?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So I started in the district 1 year before we hired Krista. And during that year, we were having some conversations with our music coordinator about how we might restructure the string program and looking at maintaining small group instruction in a more collaborative environment that would not require as much pull-out lessons from like kids from other classes. So to minimize that impact on the rest of the students' day, but still provide that same level of instruction, but increase the collaboration between teachers. So then when we hired her, we just went full swing ahead. So
we had a lot of flexibility with how that model looked, though. It wasn't, no one really told us, like, you have to take priority at each school. We had the option to do by grade level, and we just kind of fell into a flip-flop routine.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, I guess let's get started with, I guess my first question is going to your presentation and talking about kind of student-centered orchestra program. I remember you guys saying, first and foremost, like, this happened all over time and this is a big, long process. But I guess maybe even starting before then, like, what made you start questioning the like traditional orchestra program and then kind of thinking more about a student-centered approach?
I guess my initial thing would be the same teacher or the same music coordinator that had sort of slowly, gently encouraged me to be open to the idea of a co-teaching situation was kind of the same mentor that was really on board and pushing for this more student-centered environment. And they very much go together. Having that relinquishing of control from a traditional like band or orchestra or choir director and moving into that role of more of a collaborative educator, I think all very much fits in line with relinquishing control in some ways to let the students take center stage in your program. So I kind of would attribute that very much to the conversations with that mentor, who actually used to push all the time your podcast to all of us, oddly enough, which is a fun kind of little full circle moment of that. But she's since retired now in our district. But
we'll have to send her this once it's posted.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you had some kind of outside encouragement to look at this.
Yes.
How did that feel at first? Was it like, oh, wait, something different?
Yes. I think there was a little bit of that, like, well, okay, but once you look at how it lays out, and I would say we're not experts by any means at this, and like we're on a journey. I think that's a really important point to make is
we're a plot point on the graph here.
So we don't feel like we have this all figured out, but we're very much engaged in like that collaborative environment where we're talking about this all the time. And how do we approach individual student concerns or classroom issues, and how can we look at this a different way? And that's that process, I think, has led us down this road just as much as anything else.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, for me, I obviously wasn't aware of the conversations happening while I was being hired. But in school, I mean, like the best practices of 15, 20 years ago are no longer what we're considering best practice today. And our students are changing a little bit too. So I think experiencing, oh yeah, like they do have different needs. We do have different levels of I'm just willing to sit down and listen versus, oh, I actually need to feel like I'm a part of something and feel that community. That seeing that and also knowing about the, I don't know, science, I guess, behind it is that has helped me kind of put the two dots together.
I think another piece of this that has changed maybe my mindset about the traditional, like a more traditional model, is you realize very quickly as a teacher that that is not getting to every kid. And we certainly still don't have all of that figured out. And we struggle daily with reaching every kid in our classrooms. But working so closely with somebody who has a different background than I do, like that has changed my perspective in a lot of ways on how I approach the student body in my classroom. So that change in perspective, I think, has come from just recognizing different paths in musicianship as well, and that we have to celebrate students and the joy of music making with wherever they're at. So,
yeah. Your point about, this being a data point on the journey, I think that's so key for everyone to remember, because even if we magically did think we figured it out for this year, it's not going to be the same for next year. It might not even be the same next month, right? Yeah. And I think that's something that we all kind of have to remember is it is this continual journey of just listening to the students, listening to, who's in the room, who's not in the room, and working with that. So I think that's such a good thing for all of us to remember as we do this work. So
yeah.
And I think Theresa and I both feel like we don't have it figured out either. Like it's just, right? It's always, everything's always moving. So it's just, but I guess that's part of the fun of teaching too.
Right.
There's a
We
challenge.
wanted a job that stayed the same every day. There are many other career fields. This is one that changes.
And that's kind of what keeps it fun. Okay. So you've had the mentor in the district who is kind of talking about some things. You mentioned like we're learning from some of the science and the data that this is maybe a good way to start moving. So what were some of the first things you did when you were making that shift? Obviously you brought in the co-teacher, right? That was a shift, but wouldn't be the same without that. But what are some other little things that started to happen as a result of this?
So one of the first things that we did as far as like flipping to a more student-centered approach was we laid out a very clear line of like the curriculum, just using, now this is not anything fancy, but we used our method book and we went through each level, all 3 levels of the book. And actually we only did 1 book a year. So it took us 3 years because it's just,
they're massive and you want to get it right.
It's like that big, but you don't have a lot of extra time on your hands when you're teaching full time. So we took book 1 the first year and we laid out every new skill, like piece of knowledge or new performance skill that it would ask of a student. And then we were able to say, here, now you know what comes next. You take the lead on what you need to work on and what you need to do. And then we paired that with just getting better about doing a lot more small formative assessments so that we could better understand our students and where they were at any given point and what their strengths were so that we had things to celebrate. Because you have some kids who are really great readers and some kids who are just exceptional with their ears, right? And they can learn something so fast by ear, but you also want to develop them as a reader, but you can't just beat them down for not having music literacy skills without celebrating them in some other way, or you lose them completely. So I think those were probably 2 of the main things that we did at first.
And the journal writing too.
Yes, you're good about that. You talk.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have an orchestra teacher who had us engage with music in lots of different ways. And I mean, we never talked about the fact that it was like, hey, this is a great way to engage all of you non-virtuosic musicians and keep you engaged. We just were like, okay, we're writing about music now, or we're writing about what this song makes us think about. It's not a song we're going to play. It's not a song we're ever going to play, or maybe we'll hear again. But just connecting that and then knowing that that journal was always going to have some written feedback gave a lot of value to like us as musicians that like, oh, my thoughts and feelings relating to what I'm working on are important and valued. And you can't always share that in a large group setting. So I decided, hey, we could probably do that with middle school too. And then we've woven in some kind of like self-evaluative journal entries where they're evaluating themselves based on some of that trajectory stuff that we had worked on, and just kind of connecting it all together so that they know where they're at and can articulate why. Some are great at it right away, and some it takes 3 years before they can like actually say, I know what I need to work on and here's what I'm going to do. But most of them get there. So
But that's such a valuable skill to be able to
yeah.
recognize that. Yeah. So can you I'm looking for like the specifics. What's the journal look like right now? Is it physical? Is it digital? Do they
Yes.
work on it in class, at home? Can you tell us
Yes,
all about it?
that is a great question. We have them keep a notebook in their orchestra binder, and that should have their name on it and everything. And they turn that in maybe every quarter, so they can use the same notebook for however many years they're in orchestra, and then have a um, almost like a diary of their entries and like, oh, last year at solo project time, I said that I needed to work on rhythm. I still feel the same. Okay, I'll do this. Or maybe it's totally different. And they're like, wow, my penmanship has improved. Like it's all kinds of things. So we do them in class. I try not to take too much time with them just so that we keep moving. But some of them do take a little bit longer. But I feel like the work that we've done having kids sit and individually write things has made the times where we want to have a quick, like, okay, group, what worked, what didn't work. Those discussions, I think, happen a little faster now because they're a little bit more articulate in their individual writing. Yeah,
That makes sense.
And so you said that you collect those like once a semester or whatever,
yeah,
and then just put a little bit of comments back in those, or
yeah. I'll just like jot little smiley faces. Wow, oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, you have to tell me about this. Send me pictures
yeah,
from your trip. That sounds cool. Like those kinds of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a question mark. Like this isn't a full sentence. I need some more clarity here. But usually it's like a moment of connection there. That's just, I mean, it takes like 30 seconds to do,
Yeah.
but it means a lot to them.
I mean, I heard you say at the beginning, like you wanted to have more understanding of where the kids were at. And then you simply explained, like, there's two adults in the room with these lessons. So there's got to be more contact there. There's the journals with feedback there. Like, I'm already thinking as a learner in your classroom, like I'm getting a much more interaction with my teacher when there's a bunch of us in the room and it is hard to connect with everybody. So those are great ways.
With those individual like learning target progressions too, the students are submitting video recordings with also on the online program, there is a computer feedback line that is given to them that is already giving them like some immediate feedback on like tempo and pitch and rhythm, as good as a computer program can be, which isn't, perfect, but it's something so that they're submitting maybe a recording with at least a certain level of proficiency. And then we watch the video and we're able to type in feedback to them so that they're getting that specific, it might be instrument posture related or, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but anything that you could see visually for us in the string world is a vast.
I mean, sometimes the microphone is like the worst quality ever, and it sounds like they're in a garbage disposal. And if you can see their bow moving back and forth, that gives you a little bit more of a cue for the rhythm. Yeah. Like the video is good for them to see, and it's kind of also like a diary. I think they can track their videos over time and see what they've worked on. So
for like position work, we have to be able to see the left hand that's demonstrating position work. We're not just doing it in first position and calling it a day, you know. It's like, you got to show me you can do this learning target, because that's the whole reason we're playing it. We have a specific purpose and a specific skill that we want to demonstrate, so that we feel confident in being able to apply that in any future music that we're learning.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And with the learning targets, you're talking about skills. You're like totally speaking my language here. I love this. And do the students, is it specific songs that you're having them do, or is it really just like, okay, show me this skill in?
Like one thing that comes to mind would be like a hooked bow, right? So having, you know, 2 staccato quarter notes on a hooked bow, there would be a specific song in the book that we have listed out, and they might have 2 or 3 choices, or it might be one, but most of the time they've got a choice to make.
We give them,
we give them that choice, you know, out of these couple of exercises, choose one to demonstrate this learning target.
And then we have them fill out a little form through the platform when they go to submit, saying, okay, I can see my own hands. I can see this. I am going to type in the learning target that this is going to fulfill.
Nice.
We're still working on the completion of that for some of our students, but
it's middle school.
The ones that do, it is a really nice like checklist of, okay, I picked this song number to show hooked bows. Wait, I don't remember doing any hooked bows. Hold on, let me go back and check. Did I do the right song number? Oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong book. Like, those kinds of things are helpful because we need them too.
And believe it or not, the computer can't tell if you did hooked bows or not. Like,
no.
Right.
So it might tell you got 100, but
And I think some of that goes back to valuing the student's time, because if it was just busy work, like recording any song, okay, fine. But then they just pick any song. And we don't want them to do that because we don't want them to just waste their time on things that aren't relevant to them. Yeah. So having that clearly stated, like, no, you should be doing something that progresses you in some way, because otherwise you could do your math homework.
And I think it's important to point out here too that every student is somewhere different in the lineup of learning targets. So you might have a 6th grader that is already working into book 3 because they're working on 3 octave scales with a private teacher, and we want to be able to support that work. And you know, obviously we have that expertise as well, and we want to make sure that we're there for every student depending on what level they're at. We also start some beginners with our regular classes in 6th grade. And in our district, they start as early as 4th grade. So we're starting beginners alongside the majority of the kids are in their 3rd year playing already.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to have that resource compiled and put together for those beginners. And oftentimes we will have beginners that start in 6th grade and they are soaring way past some of the other kids that have been playing for 3 years and just have gotten a little bit more complacent about their progress. So, and it's fun to get to celebrate those kids that are really putting in the time and seeing those results too. And they feel great about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. You can celebrate that success. So even if it's a beginner and they're learning a song with a relatively simple learning target, you can still celebrate that as opposed to being like, well, you're never going to catch up with the,
Right. They see the path to catching up. And that's it's not just like it's very motivating for them.
Yeah.
So I've heard you say, like, over 3 years, you've kind of taken the method book and kind of broken it down by skills and letting kids know, here's the next step, here's the path. I know you spoke at your presentation, so many other aspects of your program that you've kind of, shifted or made more student-centered. One that comes to mind was like can you explain the the practice log? In the sense that the scheduling of...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
So I was definitely guilty of, I don't want to say forgery, but maybe not the most honest practice, like, journal entries when I was a student, and they're not effective. It is just a checkbox for students, and it's after the fact. It doesn't do anything to get them ready to do the actual act of practicing. And our students are busier than ever. Their parents are busier than ever. They're in like 30 clubs, it seems, and then also trying to play an instrument and also and they have siblings that like life is crazy. Yeah. So we said, hold on, why don't we just like have the process be you make the plan and then you show us what your plan is, and we have them have a caregiver sign it and they sign it as well every quarter, because like sports change, musical things change, all kinds of things, and that has really helped create a really solid line of communication between families and the students, but also like reiterate that, hey, you're not supposed to be perfect at planning your life yet. You're in middle school. Like you have a team around you of your family and us. Like we just need to know that there's a plan for you to progress. And as long as you have a plan, I'm not checking over your shoulder to see that you followed it. I just need to know that you have a plan and that it works for you. And I think it's worked for a lot of our students.
Yeah.
For visual learners, like I remember kind of seeing it, and I just remember it, like, so it's just like you fill out your day, Theresa, but like, again, it just makes me think through, like, I have gymnastics on Mondays. So that's going to be a really hard day to, squeeze that in. But I come right after school, I can home at Tuesday. So that's a great time. And it just helps kids to see, like, don't just say, well, next Monday I'll be better at it. Well, if Monday is rough, why are you? Stick to it. Yeah. And so, and I heard you say too, like after a while, if kids are saying this plan isn't working, then you would kind of take the plan out again and maybe change it, or now it's a new semester and now I'm not only in gymnastics, but I'm now in basketball. And so like now I've got this new thing, because life always throws curveballs and changes.
Well, and speaking of like different backgrounds of students too, I mean, we all have those kids in our class whose parents never had the opportunity to be a music student, and or especially like an instrumental music student where there is this expectation. And if a student has little siblings at home and it's bedtime for the baby at 7:00, well, and that's when the sixth grader is pulling out their trumpet or their violin and like going to town on E string notes. And like, if you're the parent, you're going, what are you doing? What is happening? Stop. Right. And then all of a sudden we've got this situation where a kid is like being yelled at for practicing because it's not a time that works for the family. And so we're trying to encourage those conversations and within the family unit to say, this is something that we've decided I'm going to participate in. This is something that I need some support in, and let's figure out a solution that works for the whole family so that everybody can be on board. And I do think it has made a difference, especially with some communication, like some really clear communication around it. This is the expectation for practice time. Let's see how we can fit that into your busy life.
There's like a little bit of a perception sometimes that like every teacher that specializes in, like a PE teacher is going to think that all the world revolves around PE, and a music teacher is going to think that the world revolves around, and like every teacher's got this like, well, I'm going to assign all of this homework because obviously this is the priority. And I think that's just not like we all have so many other things going on. We make a sample of this plan to show our sixth graders at the beginning of the year that is pretty accurate to our actual lives of like, hey, these are all of the things that we are actually doing outside of school too. We are busy, and that doesn't make us less of a musician. Like this doesn't have to be your whole life. It just has to be a part of it. And that's awesome.
Well, and I think you're also showing students that it's not the amount of time, it's the quality of the time, right? Yes. Okay, so you're in gymnastics and basketball and scouts and have a sibling. So let's see, what are the three times during the week that I can do good practice? And I think that's such an important skill. Whereas we focus on, you must do this number of minutes, it just a different.
And then they have a clear goal for what they're doing during that practice time with their learning target work. And we try to make it very clear, this is your only homework, is this practice time. And everything that you're being assigned, you should, in theory, be able to complete within that structured time. And there shouldn't need to be anything else that's taking up more of your life outside of school.
Yeah.
So it's a way of also us showing respect to our students.
Yes.
Right? That we value you as humans outside of you as a musician or a student in our classroom.
Yeah. Well, and it's, we talk about students thinking about themselves as musicians when they leave our classrooms as well. And just your awareness of their lives outside of that, I think helps, that you're saying like, yes, we see you not only when you're here in the room, but we see you when you're out doing the other things in your life. I think that's meaningful.
For sure.
So a lot of the things we've talked about are, with kind of individual students and they're practicing, their learning targets, things like that. Do you also get to have like an orchestra rehearsal, like a full ensemble kind of experience?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And are you able to incorporate some student-centered elements there too?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Yeah. You want to?
So along the lines of like trying to have every student, regardless of whether they're beginner or super advanced, like everybody has some kind of role to play. And one of the easiest places that we found to do that is, as an orchestra classroom, we have to tune. We have to start our rehearsal with a tuning period. Well, you don't need to be the most advanced violinist in the room to tune the orchestra. You can be a brand new beginner that has all their materials and showed up on time and are the first one to raise their hand to volunteer to lead tuning that day. And they get to go stand up in the front of the room. They feel really special. They smile. And sometimes a random administrator will come in and take a picture of that. I mean, it's just like this has happened. It sounds like a very small thing, but it's just an example of a way that you try and create an opportunity for a student to be a leader in your room and have them feel special and welcomed and valued. So that is probably one of the easiest examples that I can think of.
Yeah. And it's daily. We can set that routine day one. I mean, I guess maybe day two. But like once we have instruments out, we're teaching what that looks like and modeling it for students. And then that goes the whole year. Once we get a little bit more settled, then we do some other kind of related to journals, but sometimes we'll do like, okay, pass this out to your section. And it's just whoever's in front of you. And then they get to pass it out. Low stakes, really easy. But hey, you need to make sure that every violin player gets this. Oh, how do I? Then they all of a sudden they panic. They're like, wait a minute, I don't actually know my section. There's name tags that have the instrument on the front. Oh, okay, got it. And then they get to like have a little moment of connection with all of their peers in their section. And okay, I know that all the violins have one. I'm going to give the extra copies to the teacher, especially for our kids that are like they don't want to deal with the downtime before we start actually playing a new piece of music. They'd rather just get up and move or, yeah.
Another thing would be we slowly coach them through taking on more and more responsibility in some like peer feedback opportunities, whether it be something as simple as, check out your neighbor's bow hold or check out your neighbor's, left hand position and, tell them two things that look really great and one thing that they might be able to fix or any little thing to engage the students in increasing their own awareness of what's going on in the room. So beyond them, first in themselves, we'll ask them to self-assess and self-reflect first, because that's kind of one of those steps in leading towards trusting each other for peer feedback. But then that peer feedback leads to that whole ensemble awareness and just getting, especially at the middle school level, getting outside of their own head and being aware of everything else that's going on around them. So,
yeah. I think there's been a lot of really cool moments where we've gotten a chance to like have an informal discussion with the group of students and go, hey, I have options for you. What do you want to do? So that could be like, do you want to do the warm up first? Do you want to do sight reading first? Do you want to do this, that, the other? But we've done it more recently with some actual repertoire. And like, I've given pieces to students and said, okay, I said to myself, I know that they're going to pick this one and that they're going to hate this one. But I'm going to give them both and we'll see what happens. And they completely proved me wrong and said, no, actually, we want to do this other one, a classical Mozart arrangement. Oh, okay, that's not what I was thinking, because a month ago they were asking, why don't we play any pop songs? But here they were saying, no, we just want to do something that people know and that people recognize.
Oh.
Seemingly they're willing to put in the effort for it now. And like that level of, oh, you trust me to like choose this and say, no, we're capable of this. We can handle it. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, cool. Did I let them free will to choose from JW Pepper? No. But like those little nuggets of, I trust you, and so I'm letting you choose something, are what help them feel a part of the ensemble and like encourage them to actually participate in the ways that aren't as naturally exciting.
We did let them guide some repertoire ideas, though. In the spring last year, we got an idea from another colleague to do a plan a concert program. That was, a fun way to get them digging through rep on some publisher websites and planning out a concert with, some certain parameters. But then they shared some of those ideas with their classmates, and they went through and we made a list of like their top recommendations.
We did like a May Music Madness bracket.
Yeah, which was super fun to kind of see like what things were jumping out at them as they were listening. And you could tell some had just picked whatever the first thing was that had come up on the website, but there were others that were digging through and came up with some really great ideas. And a lot of them, we were like, oh, actually I had seen that and I was thinking about buying it anyway. So this is cool that the kids would be interested in it. So that did guide some rep decisions going into this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But think about how you're like planting these seeds, right? And these little baby steps, so that, yes, they're not today going on JW Pepper and picking what, but you're starting to help them develop those skills. So the students who want to in the future, they're going to have that ability, and you're helping them think through it. And that's so valuable.
Well, and we talk about, with that project in particular, like what is quality repertoire, and like how do you know that this is something that you'll be capable of learning, which is super important if you're going to be a musician outside of an ensemble. If you want to continue playing your instrument outside of school, maybe you want to go to a secondary program that does not have an orchestra and you play a string instrument. Yeah. But you want to keep playing. Okay, well, you're going to have to figure out how to pick music for yourself, or, oh, does this actually make sense for me, or does this not make sense for me? So we're just kind of like instilling some skills that they'll hopefully get to use later on in life too.
Yeah. I think also too, so many of us, especially Theresa and I, when we first started this work too, of like, okay, but the standards, but like everything I heard you just say was literally part of our standards. At least, Illinois is probably very similar to Wisconsin, and I know the national standards, but like children will select and analyze, a piece of music. That's a great skill for life, but that's also a standard, And so sometimes we think, okay, I want to do this work, but what about the standards? No, the standards are written for the kids to be doing these things. So Yeah.
Agreed.
So go ahead, Theresa.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, as I was thinking about it, sometimes when we're talking to people, the pushback I'll often get is, well, we can't just let kids do everything. And I love how you're just describing it's little baby steps. Like, yes. I think that's just one of those things I want to shout from the rooftop some days, because people are like, we can't just turn the program over. We're not talking about that. Especially at this age, it's the little steps, so that eventually, right, they have that independence and they don't need us as much. And I think I like how you're describing that. And I think it's just really meaningful.
One thing that we didn't talk about that we actually just wrapped up in the last couple of weeks here. So all of that learning target work and the planning and the teamwork at home very much leads to starting in January, we have them all do a solo project leading up to our solo and ensemble festivals. And they look at their feedback from those learning targets from the first semester and some of their other formative assessments. They do a journal on what are the strengths of mine as a musician, what are some of the things that I need to work on, and they let some of that information guide their decision making on which solo they decide to work on. So they kind of know going into it, what are the things that are going to be very challenging for me. And then we have a super structured solo project packet that walks them through baby steps.
Like all the elements of music basically broken down into a worksheet.
Yes.
And when they're choosing a solo, we're not sending them into the depths of the list, right? Like we still curate a list of, okay, here are 4 options for each instrument. And that does take time. That takes work and intentional planning. But then it's not, oh, my teacher picked this for me and now I have to do it. Like we're getting rid of a whole lot of engagement problems by just saying, hey, let's listen to these. They're all a little different. They all have different things. You identified some strengths. You choose it. And then you tell me why you chose it. And then you get to look back at that and say, okay, well, I did choose this one. So I actually do have to like, I am going to be, and like we've had every year they get more and more excited about it. And I think a lot of that work of centering, I mean, it is a culmination, but the end result at our district festival is we have 6th graders who are brand new to this. I mean, obviously 7th and 8th graders as well, but that walk into the room with the confidence of a seasoned high schooler and are just smiling and like proud. And we got comments from one of our adjudicators that was like, I've never seen kids feel so content and proud of their work at this age level. Like, this is incredible. And that to me just is like, anytime I'm doubting, like, oh my gosh, is this like worth it? This is a lot of work. Just to hear that, like, no, these kids are better for it that's just proof.
Including one of our students who started at our school I think in November as a brand new beginner. So like missed even the first couple of months of like catch up instruction. And she played a Class C solo absolutely beautifully and got amazing feedback from her judge and just so filled with joy at how well that whole experience went. So that is a really big like individual accountability culminating kind of project of a lot of this work during the course of our year before we dive into some of the other spring adventures. But
and it gets them like prepared to do ensemble things earlier, and that kind of community building is huge. And those groups stay together for a long time too, as we know, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I feel like I've heard you say there's a lot of intentional instruction with the method books and the skills and what's next. There's a lot of intention, or you're being very intentional with assessments and self-assessments and formative and, informal assessments for kids. Or I wouldn't say lots of feedback, but like specific feedback at specific times of the year. Because it's hard for a music teacher, right? Like I think it's hard to take on lots of feedback because we have so many students, but to make connections within the journals, to make connections day to day, to make connections through the videos, like all of those are, attainable. And, and then I was trying to think, what was the, and then just the sense of belonging, the sense of I'm heard in your classroom. Is there, I guess what I'm trying to think is there anything more that kind of we were not talking about of like, it's pushed your work forward? Because that seems like a lot of the different areas of the room.
In what capacity? Like, I guess
what I just mean is like, so you were really careful with the instruction, you were really careful with the assessment, and then the like leadership roles and the student belonging piece. Is there anything we haven't talked about? Is that kind of like all the structures that you've been intentional with?
I guess, sorry.
Well, I was just going to add one. I think that the driving piece behind a lot of it is participating in really highly functional professional learning communities. Like there's this collaboration that happens underneath the surface of all of it, whether it be the two of us together or with our greater middle school teams. So often we will go to one of those meetings with questions, and the choir colleague will be like, hey, well, what if you tried it this way? Or like, this is something that I've been needing help with. And like, I think too often as elective teachers, as we're labeled in a lot of places, we're sort of, we give this pushback of like, I don't want to,
there's a lack of trust and vulnerability in a lot of those meetings, especially when it's not forced, but like you're told by administration, like, hey, you need to meet with these people, go talk to them about what's not working in your classroom. If you're not like a very self-assured person to walk, and you don't feel like you have a safe group of people to do that with, you're like, okay, well, I don't know, I'm working on it, like I'm trying.
Right.
But to merely have a conversation of like, hey, person that I care about and person that cares about me, I'm just venting for a second about what happened in my classroom, and then have that go, oh my gosh, that happened to me last week. Have you tried this? That's the end result that everyone's looking for, but it's not how a lot of teachers view it. And when you view it in a like really businessy kind of way, that's when you lose a lot of those great ideas and connections.
Yeah, we've been super lucky to have a really good team to collaborate with, and we're lucky that we have a music coordinator position, so we have access to coaching cycles with a seasoned master teacher to just walk through a new idea, let us take a risk and try something with another kind of overseeing teacher coach that is completely non-evaluative. And those structures have been incredibly
huge,
helpful, and like they've driven me to a different level in my teaching than I had experienced before.
Same. Yeah. I don't want to say nonpartisan, but like just a neutral party that knows what you're doing, that can come in and observe you. I mean, it's that we do that for collegiate programs. Like you have observations and like, we know that that's a great tool. It doesn't need to be scary. Those are huge. And also having access to someone who can support, hey, you might not want feedback from me. You might want to go observe this other teacher in the district. Yeah. Do you want me to cover your class for you? Or like, what can we do? Like that kind of support too. Because it's not all going to fall on one person, but like a facilitator to get the teamwork happening. It's all collaborative.
Yeah. I would like to point out that even as a veteran teacher, when I took the job in my current district 5 years ago, I still had this is me being pretty vulnerable right now, but I would have this like gut reaction to another teacher or another administrator walking into my room. And I would immediately, my face would flush, my heart would start racing, and I'd have that like cortisol spike response and start to panic, because it just wasn't something that we experienced when I was a new teacher, that in a non-evaluative way. Anytime an administrator was in the room, you felt like you were
on the clock.
It was not a comfortable situation. And so that is one thing that has definitely felt different, is growing into a teacher that's really comfortable with other adults in the room. So
that's such an important thing for us to remember. Just the value of first of all, having people, right? Having people that you can have those conversations. Like I've been very fortunate in jobs to have colleagues like that, and to have Kathryn, to listen to all my crazy ideas and then say, well, what if you try, but then to get into other classrooms, I think you're right. We don't prioritize that as much. As soon as undergrad's over, it's like, nope, here I am. I walk into my classroom and close the door and that's it. Right.
Yep.
So I think that's really worth thinking about. What would you, and I know we didn't really talk about this ahead of time, what would you say to somebody who's like, but it's just me? Like, what can they do? What do you suggest?
I have been lucky enough to engage in a lot of work on collective efficacy in buildings and in schools. And that has taught me so much in terms of you can reach out to anyone that is in your building, and they may not know what specifically you're dealing with, but they know teaching, and they know that you want what's best for your students, and approaching other teachers as, hey, you were hired too. You didn't just accidentally happen here. I know that I can trust you for feedback, and it might not answer your question, and you might not walk away with like a magical result, but like it's a community. I mean, it's the same thing with ensembles. You don't rely on one musician to carry their whole section. There's a team for a reason. So I think just reaching out to the other music teachers, the other art teachers, the other science teachers in your classroom to just bounce ideas and like have a relationship there. That work can happen even if it is just you in your building.
And I feel like there's a lot to be found in our various professional organizations. If you're feeling isolated, you have to take a risk and put yourself out there and go to a conference and introduce yourself to some new people and make some new friends. If you need more people to collaborate with, you might have to go out and find them. And that's kind of the hard truth about it, right? You have to be open. You have to be open to it. But I know we've got like a great ASTA chapter in Wisconsin. There are resources all over the place for people to reach out to. But so much of it comes down to personal relationship building and getting to know the people that are within your own network. Because those people that are in your daily flow have the greatest impact on the type of teacher and like what your success is like. Because you mirror the people that you surround yourself with. So.
Yeah. And Theresa and I can say, you know, when we first met, she was in, where were you? You were in.
I was in Virginia.
Thank you. I was like,
I
was like, ah. And, you know, and I'm in Illinois, and it was like, but I talked to her every day. But, you know, it was through texts, or it was through a Voxer program or something where like, I'd be driving to work and be like, oh my God, I'm going to try this crazy thing. What do you think? You know, and then on the way home, like, oh my God, this is what happened. And, you know, but, you know, I made her a part of my day. Or there's another teacher in another building. So like, but still, you don't see people in just down the street. Right. But, you know, text or share lessons and all those things. Like there's, even if they're, and I, like you were saying, like the science teacher down the hall, like I've gone to see the second grade teacher who was trying passion projects in her room and genius hour. And like, I learned so much doing that with second graders. How do I add that into my own music classroom? So there, like you said, there's just, you make the effort, you make a connection with people, and you'll grow.
Yeah. I think there's an element of curiosity that you have to maintain because that's kind of, for me anyway, that like, I wanted to learn more and I didn't stop wanting to learn more. Just because we get licensed and we have a classroom now to do things, and doesn't mean that curiosity for, hey, what are other people doing? And like, maybe it doesn't change a whole lot of what your program is, but you get to see a broader perspective. And that, I mean, having to articulate, this is what I'm doing and why it is or isn't working is already half of the process that you do in an evaluation, right? Like, tell me what happened. Okay, well, here's what happened. That doesn't need to be with an administrator. That could be on the phone, just like you said, in the car with someone.
And that's also the beauty of a podcast, right?
Yes.
Because you're getting to, on both sides, you're getting to listen to other people and hear them talk through their process. And then also, as you are both doing, share your own voice and to be part of that for someone else. So it's really special.
I think sometimes we underestimate what we can offer to other people within our network. You know, especially if we're feeling a little bit, I don't know, like less than expert on something, you know, but simply being a sounding board and showing up for someone else is really a great place to start.
Yeah.
So having those hard conversations, none of us are perfect. Teaching is really hard.
And like we said earlier, I mean, you figure out one week and then the next week might be entirely different. Like it's never, you're never done. So,
and then the next week is a Friday the 13th, or you just had a full moon, or who knows?
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been really, really, really awesome. You've given us so many different things to think about. So we always talk about when we wrote Pass the Baton, we ended each chapter with a something to try tomorrow, because we felt like having those tiny little actionable things was really helpful for readers. And we found that the podcast listeners like it as well. So what would you offer as a suggestion for something that a listener could try tomorrow or whenever their next school day may be?
I think really delegating tiny roles to students, thinking of a specific routine, a specific task, a thing that happens every day that you can give to a student who is specifically not your musical leader, but someone who maybe is struggling to engage in a different way. And just have that be something you trial for weeks, months, and like let that grow into other things, because students will ask, hey, well, can I have a job? And then it spirals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I guess my suggestion would probably be to just reach out to a colleague and start to grow that professional connection with that person. And even if it means you're making up a question or a problem that you like, choose to be the take that first step and be the vulnerable one, and just reach out, because you never know what they will come back with. It might be, well, here's a answer to your small question that they don't know you made up, but then like, they
might ask you
then it might ask you 7 other questions, and it might be the start of a really great collaborative environment. So that would be, I think, one of my action items.
All right. I love it.
Great.
That's perfect.
Well, how can people connect with you if they want to find out more about what you're doing?
Probably by email would be the best.
Email for sure. Do
We
you want us
can-
to?
I think we can put them in the show notes.
Yep.
Okay.
Will that work? Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
for
We'll
sure.
just-
Great.
We'll put them in there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so nice. Thank you so much for everything
Thank
and for
you
taking
for
the time
having
to
us.
share.
This is
Yeah,
very
we really
cool.
enjoyed it. And I know that the listeners are going to love it as well.
Okay.
This is great work. So we're happy to
We
be part of it.
appreciate everything you guys are doing too. You have a great
Oh.
podcast. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. If you have found value in our conversation, please hit that like button, subscribe to our podcast, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us grow our community of passionate music educators.